Well, hello there. Welcome back to the channel. My name is James, and here at 20th and 21st Movies, we are about all things cinema. So I'm really excited about this video today because on this past Friday, January the 15th, the Criterion Collection announced the titles that they're going to be releasing in April of 2021. So Criterion announced that they're releasing 5 titles in April 2021. So it's a pretty big month. There are a couple of titles on this list that I'm already pretty excited about. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into what Criterion is going to be presenting to us in just a few months. Okay, so the first title that's coming out in April 2021 from the Criterion Collection is coming out on April the 13th. On Tuesday, April the 13th, and it's called History is Made at Night. This is the 1937 film directed by Frank Borzage and stars Jean Arthur and Charles Boyer and Colin Clive. So Frank Borzage is a filmmaker from the early days of cinema back in the 20s and 30s. And his films were known for being mostly about young lovers facing adversity. And this is one of those films. Frank Borzage has the distinction of being the very first recipient of the Academy Award for Best Director. This award debuted in 1929, and it was for films that were released in the 1927-1928 cycle. So he was the very first director to win that Academy Award back in 1929, and he's the director of this film. So this film was from 1937. It stars Jean Arthur. So let me read a couple of lines from the description here. It says, "Suffused with intoxicating romanticism, History is Made at Night is a sublime paean to love from Frank Borzage, classic Hollywood supreme poet of carnal and spiritual desire." So on the run through Europe from her wealthy, cruelly possessive husband, an American, Jean Arthur, is thrown together by fate with a suave stranger played by Charles Boyer, and soon the two are bound in a consuming and seemingly impossible affair that stretches across continents and brings them to the very edge of catastrophe. So this is an interesting title. I'm not sure if this is one that I'll pick up when it comes out on April the 13th. This is one that I might save for the July Barnes & Noble / Amazon 50% off sale, but we'll have to see. I mean, I think the edition itself looks really interesting when you look at the special features. It has a new restored 4K digital transfer. I love seeing new 4K restorations of older films, so this has that. It's got a new conversation between Arthur Herve Dumont and film historian Peter Crow. I always love seeing that. It's got a couple of interviews on here which I think look pretty interesting, and it's got a supplement on here that's on a lot of these older films from Criterion that I really enjoy, and that is it includes the radio adaptation of this film from 1940 that was broadcast by the Screen Guild Theater and starring Charles Boyer, who played in the film. So I always love it when Criterion includes these radio adaptations of these older films. I think that's a nice touch and a very nice supplement to include in these types of films. So glad to see that here. So this looks like, you know, a pretty nice release from Criterion. We'll probably wait for the sale in July, but we'll have to keep this on the radar. It does look like a pretty interesting title to start off the month of April. On April the 13th, History is Made at Night. All right, so next up for Criterion in April 2021 are 2 titles that are coming out on April the 20th. And the first one that I'll cover here is a Western from 1950 that was directed by Anthony Mann called The Furies. And again, this was directed by Anthony Mann. It's a Western, and it stars Barbara Stanwyck, Wendell Corey, and Walter Houston in his final film performance. This is a Blu-ray upgrade of Spine number 435 for the 2008 DVD that Criterion released. And so it's always nice to see these Blu-ray upgrades of previous titles that Criterion has put out. And in this case, it is featuring a high definition digital restoration. So I'm always curious with these descriptions on their website here when they say 4K digital restoration versus a high definition restoration or a 2K restoration. So they're very descriptive as to the level of restoration that's involved. But in any event, I would have to believe that this is very likely a nice upgrade over the DVD edition that came out 12 years ago. I would have to believe you're going to see a pretty nice uptick in the visuals with this high definition digital restoration of this film. So I'm looking forward to seeing this one. Again, this is a Western, and I love Westerns. I did a video recently on Criterion Westerns that you ought to check out on this channel. So I love Westerns. I love sitting down and just soaking up a good Western. My Darling Clementine is one of my favorites. And I have not seen the Furies, but this is one that I'll definitely have to check out. Again, as I look at the month of April, I'm not sure if this is one that I'm gonna pick up immediately, but it is one that I'm gonna definitely consider for the sale. All right, so I'll read a couple of lines here from the description on the website. It says, Barbara Stanwyck and Walter Huston are at their fierce finest in this crackling Western melodrama by master Hollywood craftsman Anthony Mann. Anthony Mann was a director who was known for his Western movies. In 1870s New Mexico territory, megalomaniacal widowed ranch owner T.C. Jeffords Houston, in his final role, butts heads with his firebrand of a daughter, Vance, Barbara Stanwyck, over her dowry, choice of husband, and finally ownership of the land itself. So definitely it looks like a pretty interesting Western drama that has some fantastic actors, you know, from that day. Of course, Barbara Stanwyck, Walter Huston. And so this is one that I definitely want to check out at some point. I'm not sure if this is one I'll pick up on April the 20th when it comes out, but it's definitely one I'll have on the list for the July Barnes & Noble Amazon sale. So let's see what they have here. Special features, high definition digital restoration, which I think is interesting. You've got an audio commentary. I've said this a million times before. I always love to see an audio commentary on a disc. And so this has that. And this one features film historian Jim Kitsey. So it doesn't feature the director or any actors from the film, of course, but it features film historian Jim Kitsey. So that's interesting. They've got a new program on here featuring critic Imogen Sarah Smith. Imogen Sarah Smith does a lot of features for Criterion, so very interested in checking out this feature that she has on this disc. And then the movies, Action Speaks Louder Than Words, a 1967 television interview with director Anthony Mann. So this is an interview from the director. That should be interesting. And then you've got a rare on-camera interview with actor Walter Huston, made for the movie theater series Intimate Interviews. That's from back in 1931. So very, very interesting. So you also have an interview from 2008 with Nina Mann, who's the daughter of Anthony Mann, the director. And you've got a stills gallery, a trailer, and an essay that's included in here from critic Robin Wood. So this looks like a very nice addition from Criterion that, you know, I'm definitely, at the very least, I'm going to pick this up in the July sales. But this one might be one I end up picking up in April. But for now, I think it's going to be later in the year. This is the Western from 1950, directed by Anthony Mann, The Furies. All right, the second film that's coming out from Criterion on April the 20th is one that I'm really excited about because it's from the director of my favorite film that I saw in 2020, Parasite. It's from director Bong Joon-ho, and it's a film from 2003, and it's called Memories of Murder. So this is a film that's actually based upon a true story, actually, of real events in Korea during that time. Around 1986 and 1991, there were a series of serial killings during that period of time. And this 2003 film, Memories of Murder from Bong Joon-ho, is loosely based upon those real life events from 86 to 91. So this looks like a really interesting investigation crime type film from a director whose work I really love. So I'm really looking forward to this one. This is one that I'm actually looking to pick up on April the 20th when it comes out, because I find it to be very intriguing. So reading from the Criterion website here, Memories of Murder, in his breakthrough second feature, Bong Joon-ho explodes the conventions of the policière with thrillingly subversive, genre-defying results, based on the true story of a string of serial killings that rocked a rural community in the 1980s. Memories of Murder stars new Korean cinema icon Song Kang-ho. Song Kang-ho was one of the leading actors in Parasite. And as the local officer who reluctantly joins forces with a seasoned Seoul detective, Kim Sang-kyung, to investigate the crimes, leading each man on a wrenching, years-long odyssey of failure and frustration that will drive him to the existential edge. So this really looks like a fascinating film from this director that I absolutely cannot wait to sink my teeth into. And I'm really looking forward to this one coming out. And I'm also looking forward to the special features that I had a chance to take a look at. Check these features out. It's got a 4K digital restoration, which was supervised by cinematographer Kim Hyun-kyu and approved by director Bong Joon-ho. So I always love seeing 4K digital restoration approved by the director. That is fantastic. And then the other thing about this release that I think is extremely interesting is the fact that you've got 3 commentaries, not 1, not 2, but 3 commentaries on this thing. You've got 2 commentaries that feature Bong Joon-ho and members of the cast and crew. Plus you get a new commentary featuring critic Tony Raines. So you get 3 commentaries on this disc, which is insane. Then you've got a new program featuring filmmaker Guillermo del Toro. So you got Guillermo del Toro doing a feature on this particular release. I love that. You've got a new interview with Bong about the real life serial killer who inspired the film. You've got a documentary on here from 2004, a making of documentary. You've got deleted scenes. You've got a couple of other different programs on here, teaser trailer, TV spot. And then you got an essay by critic and novelist Ed Park. Also on this release of Memories of Murder coming out on April the 20th is another feature that I think is very interesting, and it's called Incoherence, a 1994 student film by Bong with a new introduction by the director. So this is a film from the early days of Bong Joon-ho's filmography, and it's a student film that he did. So I always love it when Criterion includes features that show works from the early days of a filmmaker, and this is an example of that because it really shows you the evolution of a filmmaker over time, right? You know, you see the great films that they're releasing today, and that's great, right? We enjoy those, but it's really nice to see like the early days of a director. And that sort of brings me back to a recent video that I did where I talked about the films of Christopher Nolan. And one of those films on there is a film called The Following, which was his, I believe, his first feature film that was an independent film. So you see the evolution of Nolan from when he did that first film all the way up to doing films like The Dark Knight and Inception and Tenet, right? So it's always nice to see the evolution of a filmmaker. So I'm looking forward to checking out this one called Incoherence, which is his 1994 student film. So I'm glad to see that on this release. So this looks like a really nice edition from Criterion, almost stacked edition. It's got a lot of nice special features, 3 commentaries, a nice 4K digital restoration from a filmmaker that I'm really excited about diving more into his filmography, and that's Bong Joon-ho. So Memories of Murder is coming out on April the 20th. And I cannot wait to check this one out. Okay, so Criterion rounds out the month of April with 2 titles that's gonna come out on April the 27th. The first of these films is from famous French New Wave director Jean-Luc Godard, and that is Masculin, Feminin. So this is a film by Jean-Luc Godard, and this one stars Jean-Pierre Léaud, who played the young boy from Francois Truffaut's The 400 Blows back from 1959, and Chantal Goya, who's pictured on the cover of this release. So with Masculin Feminin, the ruthless stylist and iconoclastic Jean-Luc Godard introduces the world to the children of Marx and Coca-Cola through a gang of restless youths engaged in hopeless love affairs with music, revolution, and one another. French New Wave icon Jean-Pierre Léaud stars as Paul, an idealist, would-be intellectual struggling to forge a relationship with the adorable pop star Madeline, who is real-life yay girl Chantal Goya. Through their tempestuous affair, Godard fashioned a candid and wildly funny free-form examination of youth culture in pulsating 1960s Paris, mixing satire and tragedy as only Godard can. So this film is largely known as being very representative of the 1960s scene in Paris and France. And I'm really looking forward to checking this one out. This is the other release from April from Criterion that I am most looking forward to. In addition to Bong Joon-ho's Memories of Murder, this is the second title that I'm really looking forward to checking out, Masculin, Feminin. I love Godard's movies, and I'm really looking forward to checking this one out. I have not seen this one before, so this will be a blind buy for me, but given that it is Godard, I have no doubt that I'm gonna really be pulled into this one. It looks fascinating to me, and I'm looking forward to checking it out. This one has a new 4K digital restoration approved by cinematographer Willie Courant, which is good. That is approved by at least the director or the cinematographer. So that's good to see. It's a 4K digital restoration. I always love that. You've got an interview from 1966 with actor Chantal Goya, which is nice. Interviews from 2004 and 2005 with Goya, Courant, and Jean-Luc Godard, and collaborator Jean-Pierre Gorin. You've got a discussion of the film from 2004 from a couple of critics, Freddie Boucher and Dominique Piani. And you've got some footage from Swedish television of Godard directing the film within the film scene. You got trailers, and plus you have an essay from film critic Adrian Martin and a reprint of a report from the set by French journalist Philippe Labro. So this looks like a really fascinating release. So this is a Blu-ray upgrade of Spy Number 308, the DVD edition that was previously released by Criterion. So it's always nice to see a Blu-ray upgrade of a film that was previously released on DVD by Criterion. And so I'm looking forward to checking this one out from Jean-Luc Godard. So this will be one that I will very likely pick up when it comes out on April 27th. Masculin, Feminin by Jean-Luc Godard. All right, last but not least, the second film that's coming out from Criterion on April the 27th is a film that is directed by Olivier Assayas, and it's the 1996 film Irma Vep. And this is directed by Olivier Assayas and starring Maggie Cheung, Jean-Pierre Léaud, who of course is in Masculin Féminin from Jean-Luc Godard and was the boy that played in the 400 Blows from Francois Truffaut, and Natalie Richard. So this is a pretty interesting looking film here. And the description says that the live wire international breakthrough Olivier Assayas stars a magnetic Maggie Cheung as a version of herself, a Hong Kong action movie star who arrives in Paris to play the latex-clad lead in a remake of Louis Falloud's classic silent crime serial Les Vampires. So what she finds is a behind-the-scenes tangle of barely controlled chaos as egos clash, romantic attractions simmer, and an obsessive director, a cannily cast Jean-Pierre Léaud, drives himself to the brink to realize his vision. So blending blasts of silent cinema, martial arts flicks, and the music of Sonic Youth and Luna into a hallucinatory swirl of postmodern cool, Assayas composes a witty critique of the 90s French film industry and the eternal tension between art and commercial entertainment. So this looks like a really fascinating film, and I like the cover. The cover makes me wonder what's going on with this film, and this description is really interesting to me. I don't know really much of anything, or really anything about it beyond what I just read. But this looks like a really fascinating film. When you look at the special features, of course, you've got a 2K digital restoration, a new restoration from the original camera negative. Always love to see that. Approved by director Olivier Assayas. And you've got a 5.1 surround DTS HD master audio soundtrack on the Blu-ray. So from a technical standpoint, this one's looking very strong. You've got a new interview with Assayas. You've got On the Set of Irma Vep, a behind the scenes featurette. You've got interviews from 2003 with Assayas, Charles Tesson, actors Maggie Cheung and Natalie Richard. You've got a couple of other features on here. You've got the black and white rushes for the film, so that looks pretty interesting. An essay by critic Elisa Ma. So this looks like a really interesting release from Criterion that's coming out on April the 27th. I'm not sure if this is one that I'll pick up when it first comes out. I think this is one, again, similar to the other couple of titles that I mentioned, earlier, this is one that I'll probably wait for the July sales, but this is one that will definitely be on that list for then at least, if I don't decide to pick it up earlier. But Irma Vep is coming out on April the 27th from the Criterion Collection, and it rounds out what looks to be a really nice stacked month for Criterion for April of 2021. All right, so there you have it. Those are the releases from the Criterion Collection that are coming out in April 2021. You've got 5 titles starting on April the 13th with History is Made at Night by director Frank Borzage. You've got 2 titles coming out April the 20th called The Furies by Anthony Mann and Memories of Murder by Bong Joon. And then on April the 27th, you've got 2 titles, Masculin, Feminin from director Jean-Luc Godard, and you've got Irma Vep from director Olivier Assayas. So overall, this is a stacked month for Criterion. You got 5 titles coming out. And like I said before, the 2 titles that I'm most interested in seeing are Bong Joon-ho's Memories of Murder and Masculin, Feminin by Jean-Luc Godard. Those are the 2 titles that I will most likely pick up day one when they come out in April. The others will probably wait for the upcoming sales later in the year. But let me know in the comments below, what do you think about these titles? Have you seen any of these films? What do you think about these films that are coming out in April from the Criterion Collection? Let me know that in the comments below. And also let me know what films you are most looking forward to seeing that have been announced by the Criterion Collection so far through April, and what titles are you hoping that Criterion announces for later in the year? For me, I'm looking forward to Criterion releasing a Blu-ray edition of Spellbound. This is one that I've been waiting on for some time now. They've recently released Notorious and Rebecca on Blu-ray from Criterion. Those are Blu-ray upgrades that they've recently done. So I think it's only a matter of time for Spellbound to come out, but we'll have to see. Will it come out later this year? We shall see. But let me know in the comments below what titles you're looking forward to for Criterion for the balance of the year. And let me know what movies you're interested in seeing in general for 2021. There are a number of films that I'm really looking forward to seeing later this year, either in the theaters or at home. A couple of them are A Quiet Place Part 2, the upcoming Matrix sequel, as well as the new Fast and Furious movie, Fast 9, F9 coming out around Memorial Day. And of course, I'm looking forward to seeing No Time to Die, the James Bond movie, which I heard has been postponed again to, I think, the fall of this year. I'll have to double check the date on that, but it looks like No Time to Die has been postponed to later in 2021. But those are the 4 films that I'm really looking most forward to seeing. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll look to see you next time at the movies. Peace.